Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
1920 Walther Nernst, the theoretical and experimental basis of the heat theorem. This essay undertakes a thorough examination of Walther Nernst's seminal 1920 work, the theoretical and experimental basis of the heat theorem. Our objective is to dissect, evaluate, and illuminate the specific claims, arguments, and methodologies employed within this pivotal text. We will progress through the work section by section, engaging with its core tenets, scrutinizing the evidence presented, and considering its lasting impact upon the scientific landscape. The aim of this investigation rests on an exhaustive understanding of the original text, assessing its internal consistency and its contribution to scientific thought. The broader historical context and the evolution of the scientific community will be acknowledged only as they bear directly upon the comprehension and assessment of the theoretical and experimental basis of the heat theorem's central propositions. Section 1: Introduction and General Principles. In this preliminary section, the groundwork for Nernst's argument is laid. Nernst presents his heat theorem as a foundational principle governing the behavior of chemical systems at low temperatures. The core claim put forward is the assertion that the entropy change accompanying any isothermal process in a condensed system approaches zero when the temperature approaches absolute zero. This statement, central to Nernst's thesis, sets the stage for a rigorous investigation into the thermodynamic properties of matter under extreme conditions. The initial presentation focuses on the universality of the theorem, emphasizing its applicability across a spectrum of chemical reactions, thereby establishing its status as a fundamental law of nature. Nernst begins by contrasting the second law of thermodynamics, which describes processes only with respect to their direction of progression, and his heat theorem, which provides additional specifics about the process' ultimate destination as the temperature diminishes. This subtle distinction represents a significant departure, as it introduces a new constraint on the possible evolution of chemical systems. The primary emphasis here is on the principle itself, with subsequent sections devoted to the experimental evidence and theoretical justifications backing this claim. The introduction anticipates a detailed exploration where the consequences of the theorem, particularly its predictive power regarding the equilibrium, constants of reactions, are elaborated. Section 2: Experimental verification using calorimetric measurements. The second section undertakes the vital task of providing experimental validation for the heat theorem. Nernst focuses on calorimetric measurements, concentrating on the observation of exceedingly small changes in heat capacity and heat of reaction at low temperatures. The methodology is to analyze the enthalpy changes that accompany chemical reactions. The premise is that if the entropy change indeed tends towards zero at absolute zero, then the curves representing the heats of reactions, when plotted against temperature, should smoothly converge at this point, indicating a nearly negligible change in enthalpy. This is where specifics become paramount. Nernst meticulously describes experiments performed at low temperatures. The measurements demonstrate a clear convergence of reaction heats as the temperature is reduced, providing essential evidence supporting the heat theorem. The focus is to show that the heat of reactions between the reactants and products become insensitive to changes in temperature as the temperature is lowered. Nernst's careful attention to detail, including discussions of experimental errors and potential sources of interference, adds significantly to the perceived trustworthiness of the work. He further supports his claim by analyzing data from different types of reactions, thus increasing the generality of the conclusion. The use of different chemical reactions across a variety of reactions is a key element to demonstrate the theorem's scope. Section 3: Theoretical framework and differential equations. In this, the focal point shifts from observation to theoretical underpinnings. Nernst develops a mathematical framework that provides a deeper understanding of the heat theorem. The core of this section involves the use of differential equations to describe thermodynamic processes. Nernst derives formulations that connect the entropy change to measurable properties, such as heat capacity and thermal expansion. The key equations presented create a formal link between the theoretical principle and the experimental observations. By applying these differential equations, it becomes possible to predict the behavior of systems at low temperatures. Nernst's treatment is not merely descriptive, but instead moves into a predictive mechanism. The equations developed here grant the ability to calculate the equilibrium constants of chemical reactions at various temperatures, offering a substantial predictive capability. The theoretical arguments rest upon the established principles of thermodynamics. Nernst skillfully utilizes the second law concerning its connection to entropy and the idea of reversibility to formulate the necessary equations. One crucial aspect of the theoretical development is a careful treatment of the change in free energy with respect to temperature. These differential equations demonstrate in specific, quantitative ways the predicted consequences of the heat theorem. The integration of these equations, under the specific conditions outlined by Nernst, provides the means to calculate the equilibrium constants from measurable thermal properties. The equations are presented in a rigorous manner, and the theoretical derivations are clearly explained. Section 4 Applications of the heat theorem to specific chemical reactions. This section represents a critical test of the heat theorem's predictive prowess. Nernst applies the principles developed in the previous sections to predict the equilibrium constants of a range of specific chemical reactions. These reactions, ranging from the synthesis of ammonia to the decomposition of water, offer a varied testbed for the theorem. The approach involves using the experimental thermal data, such as heat capacities and heats of formation, to derive the temperature dependence of equilibrium constants. These predictions are then compared with actual measurements. The detailed analyses included are a crucial juncture during the argumentation. Nernst demonstrates that the agreement between his predictions and the experimental observations is remarkable. The successful application of the heat theorem to a wide range of reactions serves to validate the theoretical framework, enhancing its credibility. The section also includes the discussion of potential deviations from the predictions. Nernst acknowledges the fact that some discrepancies are observed, and he then provides explanations involving the possible sources of error and limitations in the theoretical model. The focus here is less on demonstrating absolute precision than on highlighting the usefulness of the heat theorem and its predictive accuracy in specific cases. The detailed discussions regarding these specific reactions and the comparisons involved are the key to the strength of the work. These practical applications demonstrate the potential power of the theory for chemical practice. Section 5 The significance of the heat theorem in the context of chemical equilibrium and its implications. The fifth section considers the broader implications of the heat theorem, situating it within the larger context of chemical equilibrium. Nernst emphasizes the significance of the theorem for the accurate understanding of chemical reactions. The central argument is that incorporating the heat theorem allows for a better and more complete determination of equilibrium conditions as compared to the earlier approaches that relied solely on the first and second laws of thermodynamics. Nernst explicitly asserts that the heat theorem is a crucial supplement to the existing thermodynamics, offering a more complete and detailed description. The discussion also involved the implications of the theorem for investigating the nature of chemical bonds and the stability of compounds. The fact that the heat theorem helps inform the nature of chemical reactions and subsequently their behavior is a key component. Nernst carefully considers the limitations. He recognizes that the heat theorem is applicable primarily to condensed systems at low temperatures, and that its application to gaseous reactions is more complex. The final point emphasizes the predictive value of the theorem, highlighting its capacity to guide experimental research by pointing out the most relevant experiments and providing guidance. The theoretical framework is, in this way, directly connected to experimental reality. The impact of the theorem is also emphasized. It offers a new tool for chemists to predict and understand the behavior of chemical systems. This emphasis underscores how the heat theorem fundamentally altered the way chemists investigated the properties of chemical reactions, solidifying its place as an essential theoretical framework. Section 6. The relationship of the heat theorem to the third law of thermodynamics and the concept of absolute zero. This section delves into the connection between the heat theorem and the, as yet, unnamed third law of thermodynamics. The heat theorem, when properly developed, directly relates to the concept of absolute zero, the lowest possible temperature. Nernst does not explicitly formulate the third law in the same way that subsequent authors would. Instead, he explains that the heat theorem implies that the entropy of a perfectly crystalline substance at absolute zero is zero. This is a significant statement, as it introduces a fundamental constraint on the entropy of systems. The implications include the idea that absolute zero can never be reached. The argument involves a crucial understanding of the nature of entropy. Nernst emphasizes that the heat theorem provides a way to predict entropy changes. The section explores the implications of the theorems for the discussion of absolute zero and its physical meaning. The implications of his work are significant. He discusses the theoretical impossibility of reaching absolute zero. Nernst's work emphasizes that this temperature is not just a theoretical construct but a boundary condition that has profound implications for thermodynamic behavior. This framework directly supports the later concept of a third law by establishing the limit of entropy for a specific system. The discussion is essential for understanding the philosophical and conceptual aspects that are central to the broader framework. Section 7. Critiques and comparisons to prior works and early debates. In this section, Nernst acknowledges and addresses critiques of the heat theorem, situating his work within the historical context and discussing the initial debates surrounding its validity. He discusses prior theories and the limitations of these prior attempts to achieve precision in chemical reactions. A significant amount of attention is given to the criticisms leveled, especially those based on the experimental data and the interpretations of thermal properties. Nernst uses these critiques as opportunities to sharpen the formulation of the theorem or to demonstrate its advantages. He clarifies the scope and limitations of the theorem. He does not shy away from acknowledging and addressing any inconsistencies in experimental data and/or theoretical assumptions. The central point is that Nernst's work is distinct from the previous attempts to describe the behavior of matter. The criticisms are not seen as a weakness, but as an opportunity to demonstrate the theorem's capacity to address the limitations of prior works. The section discusses the gradual acceptance of the heat theorem and the evolution of scientific understanding. His work is compared to other pre-existing studies on the behavior of materials. The emphasis is on the clarity, rigor, and predictive power of Nernst's formulation. The examination of the debates and controversies is not merely a matter of historical interest. It underscores the intellectual labor involved in refining the heat theorem. It clarifies how the concept was developed and improved throughout the process of critical assessment. Section 8. Applications beyond the scope of the original work and enduring relevance. This concluding section reflects on the enduring legacy of the heat theorem. The analysis demonstrates that the heat theorem continues to be a cornerstone in thermodynamics, with implications reaching far beyond the initial investigations of chemical equilibrium at low temperatures. Nernst's work is shown to have exerted a substantial influence on the development of materials science and solid-state physics. The core idea continues to inform research into condensed matter. The framework and the methodology are reviewed in this section. The final section re-emphasizes the significance of Nernst's contributions, noting their continued relevance in an age that has seen incredible growth in the understanding of physical systems. The heat theorem is shown to be a vital element of the broader framework of thermodynamics. The work also inspires the pursuit of absolute zero. The enduring value of the work rests not only on the specific predictive power of the heat theorem, but also on the conceptual clarity and the rigorous methodology that are central to Nernst's approach. The discussion emphasizes the importance of the interplay of theory and experiment. The value of the original work is assessed, and the analysis affirms the sustained impact of Nernst's heat theorem on both scientific theory and practice. The conclusion serves not only to sum up the key contributions, so to celebrate the legacy of. In conclusion, Walther Nernst's The Theoretical and Experimental Basis of the Heat Theorem represents a groundbreaking contribution to the field of thermodynamics. Through a combination of experimental precision and theoretical rigor, Nernst presented and defended a fundamental principle that has profoundly shaped our understanding of the behavior of matter under extreme conditions. The systematic section-by-section analysis undertaken here has underscored the coherence, depth, and enduring significance of Nernst's arguments, the thorough verification based on experimental data, the careful development of a mathematical framework, and the application to a range of specific chemical reactions, all serve to demonstrate the strength of his claims. The work's lasting value is further accentuated by its impact on subsequent scientific advancements, and the way it continues to inform our understanding of the fundamental laws governing the physical world. Nernst's meticulous approach, his insightful analysis, and his willingness to engage with both the experimental evidence and theoretical implications make the theoretical and experimental basis of the heat theorem a towering achievement in scientific literature, and one that merits the close scrutiny and deep admiration of scholars and scientists alike.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.